Hi, I'm Marc, and welcome to the weekly Outside Views report on European politics. At the start of its first summit in 18 years, the Council of Europe, with its 46 member states, clearly supported Ukraine in its defensive struggle against Russia. Ukraine is fighting for democracy and for freedom. It is our common struggle. That was said by EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen at the opening session, to which Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was also connected via video from Kiev. And German Chancellor Olaf Scholz called for Russian war crimes to be punished, but also spoke out in favor of not breaking the bridges to the, what he said, other Russia beyond President Vladimir Putin and his government. At some point, Russia's war against Ukraine will end, and it will not end with a victory for Putinian imperialism, is what Scholz said. Until then, as the Council of Europe, we should maintain bridges to the representatives of the other Russia, the other Belarus, and thus keep the prospect of a democratic, peaceful future for both countries open, no matter how improbable it may seem to us today. The Council of Europe was founded in 1949 as the guardian of democracy, also of human rights and the rule of law in Europe, and is independent of the European Union. It also includes significantly more countries than the EU, because it almost has all European countries. Ukraine has been a member since 1995. Russia was excluded after the invasion of Ukraine. Belarus is suspended and is only represented at the summit as an observer. It was only the fourth summit of the group of states in its more than 70-year history. More than 30 heads of state and government were taking part. In addition to Scholz, French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak were also present. In contrast, pro-Russian heads of state and government, such as Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić and Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, did not go to Iceland. At their summit in Reykjavik on Wednesday, the 46 countries of the Council of Europe wanted to adopt a register for war damage in Ukraine. In this way, all damage caused by the Russian war of aggression should be documented so that Russia has to take legal and financial responsibility for it. All member countries, but also observers in other states, could then join the register. Not all of them did, by the way. The idea goes back, among other things, to a resolution of the United Nations and is now to be implemented under the umbrella of the Council of Europe. As I said, the Council of Europe was founded in 1949 as the guardian of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law in Europe. And I can't stress it often enough, I even do it on my video on my 101 channel, it is not part of the EU. And that is really important to say, because the EU and the Council of Europe work together. If you want to learn more, go to my channel Politics 101. There you have a full video on this. It's really important to separate between the two. But they are really an important part for keeping peace in Europe. And it lasted for a long time until Russia broke this peace. But nevertheless, it was important that they met now and made a clear statement, even if not all member states did a clear statement. But the damage already in Ukraine is at least 600 billion euros. That's an estimate from the EU Commission. And with a damage register, they want to create a basis for the reconstruction of Ukraine. That was at least said by Chancellor Olaf Scholz at the summit in Reykjavik on Tuesday. And this register is a prerequisite for working with common data. It could be a basis for talks at international level. And French President Emmanuel Macron also campaigned for this register. He said, "I call on all states to join it and actively contribute to its development." But not all of them did sign it. Zelensky, who of course had solicited support during his visits to Rome, Berlin, Paris and London in recent days, thanked his allies for their help. Russia is trying very hard to improve its ability to kill. We are trying very hard to improve the protection of our people, he said. And he is referring to the delivery of air defense system. We show what our 100% mean and what the power of the free world means. That is what Zelensky said. And this war has to be stopped. But incidentally, the Russian parliament voted on Tuesday to withdraw from the conventional Armed Forces Treaty in Europe, the CFE Treaty. According to the parliament's website, the decision was taken unanimously in their plenary session. The decision to leave was made in the interest of national security, they say. Duma chief Vyacheslav Volodin justified the decision on his Telegram channel. Washington and Brussels, obsessed with the idea of building a unipolar world, destroyed the global security system with NATO's eastward expansion, he said. What a schmuck. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Eastern European countries began to join NATO in 1999. Czechia, Hungary and Poland were the first. One reason for joining NATO was security guarantees and thus protection against Russia. But NATO was never planning to attack anyone. The CFE treaty sets the limits for the stationing of heavy weapons on the European continent. And these include main battle tanks and armored personnel carriers, heavy artillery, combat aircraft and helicopters. Moscow was one of the co-signatories to the agreement in 1990, but had largely put its implementation on hold as early as 2007, so this doing now is just a joke. Since 2015, a year after the annexation of Ukraine's Crimea Peninsula, Russia has also stopped attending the advisory group's meetings. The legislative initiative to terminate the CFE treaty was tabled by Russian President Vladimir Putin in parliament last week. According to Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov, the exit procedures will take about 6 months. There is currently no way to revive the contract, as the diplomat stressed. You can talk about something when the storm in our relations with the West have calmed down, when the West has abandoned its hostile policy towards Russia and is looking for new conceptual paths. That's what Ryabkov said. Russia, which launched its war of aggression against Ukraine a year ago, has repeatedly claimed it has to defend itself against Western aggression, which is just Russian propaganda, which is lies, which is fake news, and which is just trying to find any excuse for their breach of international treaties, for their illegal attack on a sovereign nation. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.